How many of us are living our lives trying to be enough? The perfect partner, the dependable friend, the flawless professional. Because somewhere along the way, we learned that love had conditions. Maybe it was the subtle look of approval when we got good grades, the praise that came when we were easy to manage, or the sting of rejection when we dared to say no. What if I told you that love, real love, isn't something that you earn? And that unlearning these conditions could change everything. Welcome, everybody, to another solo episode of the Untethering Shame podcast. I'm your host, Kyira Wackett, and today we're diving into a conversation about conditional versus unconditional love. How so many of us have been conditioned to believe that love is transactional, and what we can do to break free from that shame-driven mindset. Inspired by the works of bell hooks and grounded in empathy, we'll explore how compliance can become the gateway to love in childhood. Why that makes it so hard to give or receive unconditional love as adults. And most importantly, how we can begin to untangle ourselves from this web and redefine what it means to be worthy of love. So let's start by defining what we mean when we say conditional love. Conditional love is love that is contingent on certain behaviors, achievements, or qualities. It's the idea that I'll love you if, or I'll accept you when. As children, we learn this dynamic early on. Maybe it's through praise only when we excel at school, compliance with household rules without question, or performing well in sports. The message becomes clear. Love, approval, and acceptance are earned, not freely given. Bell Hooks, in her transformative work on love, spoke to how we internalize these messages as children. When compliance becomes the gateway to love, we don't just learn to strive for it, we start to believe it's the only way to survive. And as we mature, this belief shapes our relationships, not only with others, but with ourselves. Now, over time, the cost becomes significant. When love is conditional, we become trapped in a never-ending cycle of performance. We learn to tolerate mistreatment, dismiss our own needs, and assume it's our job to be everything for everyone else. After all, if we don't meet those external standards, who will love us? And so we hustle for worthiness, driven by shame, that quiet but persistent voice telling us that we are not enough as we are. We carry this conditioning into adulthood, creating relationships where we either demand compliance from others or bend ourselves into pretzels to meet someone else's expectations. And perhaps most heartbreakingly, we withhold unconditional love from ourselves. But before we rush to judgment, let's pause and build empathy for how we get stuck in these cycles. These patterns aren't a reflection of our weakness or failure. They're survival mechanisms born out of a desire to connect and belong. Our nervous systems are wired for connection. When we sense that love is at stake, we will do whatever it takes to secure it, even if it means abandoning parts of ourselves. Compliance isn't weakness. It's a strategy we learn to protect ourselves. Recognizing this is the first step toward breaking free. When we understand that our drive to earn love is rooted in a learned survival strategy, we can approach ourselves with compassion rather than self-judgment. So how do we begin to disentangle ourselves from this shame-driven web? First, we need to start with awareness. Start by noticing where conditional love shows up in your life. What relationships or situations make you feel like you have to earn love or approval? Pay attention to the messages you tell yourself. If only I were more successful, more attractive, more agreeable, then I'd be worthy. Second, challenge that narrative. Once you recognize these patterns, challenge them. Ask yourself, who decided this? Why is this the standard for my worth? And what would it look like to believe I am worthy because I am here? Third, practice self-compassion. Remember that you don't have to believe everything you've been taught. Offer yourself the kindness and understanding you've been seeking from others. One practice I love is placing a hand over my heart and saying, I am enough as I am. Now, I know that sounds silly. And even though I am standing here telling you about this as I'm speaking into this microphone, I can still feel myself resisting the idea of doing it. When that happens for you, do it anyway. Fourth, redefine boundaries. Begin to set boundaries that honor your needs and values. This might mean saying no more often, stepping away from toxic relationships, or simply being honest about what you can and can't offer. 5, seek out unconditional relationships. Look for and nurture relationships where love isn't contingent on performance. Surround yourself with people who see and celebrate you for who you are, not what you do. And finally, seek out therapy and other support. If this work feels overwhelming, seeking support by way of coaching or therapy can be a powerful step. Talking with someone trained to help unravel these patterns can provide invaluable insight and healing. Look, unlearning conditional love is a journey, one that requires patience, courage, and a deep commitment to yourself. But it's worth it, because at the end of the day, you are deserving of love not because of what you do, but simply because you are. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen and hope you found it valuable. I'd love to hear from you about anything and everything that came up as you listened. So please feel free to comment below or send me a voice memo or simply reach out to me via my website and let me know what's coming up for you. Now, if you found today's episode valuable and insightful, I encourage you to subscribe, leave a review, hit that 5-star button, and of course, share this episode with someone you think could benefit from hearing it. If you're ready to take that next step in your own shame resilience journey, be sure to click the link in the show notes to download my free handout, 5 things shame resilient people do every day and 3 things they don't. And if you're looking for more ways to connect, you'll find links to my website and YouTube channel below, as well as a link to set up a discovery call to go over any questions you have about program offerings and next steps to your shame resilience journey. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember, change takes time, but every step counts. So stay the course, stay hopeful, and stay committed to your well-being. We'll be back with more insightful discussions to support you on your journey. Until then, take care, and we'll catch you next episode.